Motivation's a fair weather friend. It tends to leave right when you need it. Discipline is different. It's an engine you build yourself, and it starts in any weather. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this, the Roman emperor. He said our actions define us, not our intentions. He knew that waiting for the right feeling is a trap. So this is about building that engine, that unshakable one. I want to give you a toolkit, 15 Stoic exercises, practical ones, forged for when your motivation's gone. We'll cover how to reshape your perception, how to master your desires, how to take decisive action, and how to cultivate resilience, unbreakable resilience. You'll learn to turn procrastination into preparation, to turn anxiety into focused energy. How do you make a difficult task more than possible? Like a necessary part of your growth, what's the single mental shift, the one that turns obligation into opportunity? By the end, you'll have a framework. A complete Stoic framework for action, consistent action, no matter how you feel. So, what's the one goal, the one you keep putting off because you just don't feel like starting? The first exercise is about turning fear into preparation. It's called the Premeditatio Malorum, the Premeditation of Adversity. This isn't about expecting the worst to happen. It's about refusing to be surprised when difficulty shows up. Think of it like a fire drill for your mind. You rehearse the alarm, so when it sounds, you don't panic. You just start the procedure you've already practiced. Seneca wrote about this, the Stoic philosopher. He suggested we spend time each day anticipating the challenges that could come up. Not to dwell on them in despair, but to disarm them. By picturing the obstacle clearly, you take away its greatest weapon, which is the element of shock. That sudden disappointment that makes you want to quit. When you've already seen the problem in your mind's eye, its arrival feels almost routine. It becomes just another step in the process. Not a reason to abandon the process entirely. So how does this work? Let's say you have a difficult conversation you've been putting off. The thought of it drains your motivation. Instead of avoiding it, you sit for a moment. You mentally walk through it. You imagine the other person might be defensive. You rehearse keeping your own tone calm. You picture the conversation not going perfectly. You see yourself listening, responding, staying focused on the outcome rather than the discomfort. You've just done a premeditatio. Or take a simpler example. It's early. You don't feel like doing your workout. Your motivation is zero. Before you even get out of bed, you premeditate. You imagine the feeling of fatigue. You picture the cold floor. You see yourself feeling sluggish during the first few exercises, and then you see yourself pushing through it anyway. By the time you actually stand up, the mental battle is half over. You've already faced the worst of it in your imagination, so the reality feels more manageable. This exercise strengthens discipline because it builds a bridge between intention and action. It closes the gap where excuses live. So here's a prompt. Think of one task you're currently avoiding, just one. Maybe it's starting a big project, or having that talk, or simply cleaning a room. Now, instead of thinking about how to avoid it, take 2 minutes. Mentally walk through the worst-case scenario of simply beginning it. What's the absolute worst that could happen in those first few minutes? You'll feel resistance. You'll feel awkward. You might make a mistake. Play that movie in your head. Then ask yourself, is that movie truly a reason to stop, or is it just the opening scene? This rehearsal doesn't make the task easy. It makes you ready, and readiness is the foundation of discipline. How would this look from a mountain or 100 years from now? That flash of anger, that deadline that feels like everything. The second Stoic exercise is the view from above. It's a deliberate zooming out to see your immediate struggle inside the vast context of time and space. That perspective shrinks the problem's urgency. It doesn't make the problem go away, but it drains the panic out and leaves a calmer space for you to act. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly. He wrote reminders to himself to look at the stars, to see the earth from a great height, to see the markets, the homes, the farms, all as tiny specks. And within that, his own anxieties, his duties. From this vantage point, you see the sheer volume of human activity, all the loves and losses, the triumphs and worries that have come and gone. Your current crisis is a single thread in an endless tapestry. This isn't to make your efforts feel meaningless. It's the opposite. It's to free you from the tyranny of the moment. So you can choose your response, not from frantic reaction, but from clarity. He might have looked at a passage like this. Look at the swiftness of the passing of all things. Bodies in space, time in eternity. Think of the vast abyss of time past and future. In that context, how small is the thing that agitates you? How does this work? Take that stressful email, the one that makes your heart race. Before you type a heated reply, you pause, you step back from the screen, you take a breath. And you enact the view from above. You picture the room you're in, then the building, then the city. You see countless other people dealing with their own emails, their own stresses. You pull back further to the curve of the planet, spinning in silence. That email is a tiny data point on a vast, living world. From here, does it require a frantic response? Or a measured one? The space you've created gives you the answer. Or procrastination on a long-term project? The scale feels crushing, so you zoom out. You think about where this project fits into the arc of your entire year, or your life. You think about the people who came before you, building the knowledge you're using. You think about who might benefit from this work long after you've moved on. Suddenly, the project isn't just a scary pile of work on your desk. It's a small, meaningful contribution to a much longer story. That shift can turn avoidance into engagement. So think back, a worry you had 1 year ago, something that felt intensely important. Maybe it kept you up at night. Can you even remember what it was? If you can, see how small it seems now. That's the power of perspective. Now take a current challenge, one that feels immediate and heavy. Apply that same lens. See it from the mountaintop. See it from 1 year in the future. How does its shape change? The goal isn't to dismiss your feelings. It's to prevent those feelings from hijacking your discipline. When motivation fades, perspective can provide the steady ground to take the next step. Discipline comes from sometimes saying no to comfort. That's the third exercise, voluntary discomfort. It seems strange. Why choose hardship when life already gives you enough? The Stoics had a simple answer: to show yourself that comfort isn't required for you to act, to train your willpower like a muscle. By lifting something manageable now, you get ready for the heavier things life will give you later. Musonius Rufus taught this. He was a Stoic teacher. He said philosophy isn't just abstract ideas, it's training. He believed we should practice regularly with having little, so that having little wouldn't scare us. He saw comfort as a possible trap. It softens your resolve. It makes you depend on outside conditions. His lessons were practical. He told his students to embrace simple food, modest clothing, hard beds. Not as permanent deprivation, but as a temporary exercise in self-mastery. His student Epictetus said it plainly: practice wanting only what you have. And then, when you're ready, practice wanting less. He advised his students to go without sometimes, to drink only water when wine is there, to wear a thinner cloak when it's cool. Why? So that when you face real hardship, you aren't meeting it for the first time. You'll have already met its cousin in your training, and you'll know you can endure it. This isn't masochism. It's not about punishment. It's about deliberate, controlled stress testing to build resilience and to cultivate a deeper appreciation for what you already have. A warm bed feels much more welcoming after you've chosen to sleep on a harder surface for a night. A simple meal tastes richer after you've voluntarily skipped a more indulgent option. So in practice, what is this? It's small, conscious choices that interrupt your automatic reach for ease. You take a cold shower for the last 30 seconds. You choose to walk to the store instead of driving for a short trip. You skip your afternoon snack even with a slight craving. You leave your phone in another room for an hour of focused work. You sit on the floor to read instead of in your most comfortable chair. Each of these acts is a tiny vote, a vote for your will over your whim. They prove a point to your subconscious that you are in charge. That discomfort isn't an emergency. It's just a sensation, and you can act effectively while feeling it. Here's a prompt. Commit to one small voluntary discomfort today. Just one. It could be drinking a glass of water before your morning coffee or taking the stairs. Observe your reaction. Notice the initial resistance. Then notice the quiet confidence that comes after you do it. That confidence is the foundation of discipline being laid, brick by brick. It's the proof that your motivation doesn't get to dictate your actions. You do. Epictetus starts with a simple idea. Some things are up to us and some things are not. That's the foundation. He lists what is up to us, our actions, our opinions, our desires. What we want, what we avoid. Then he lists what isn't, our body, our property, our reputation, anything that isn't our own doing. The discipline is in knowing the difference. And then putting all your effort into the first category and letting go of the second. When you lose motivation, you often waste what little willpower you have left. You spend it worrying about things you can't command, other people's opinions, traffic, the weather. That misplacement of effort is a huge drain. It leaves you exhausted before you even start the work that's actually yours to do. Epictetus called this the cause of all human trouble. We try to control the uncontrollable, and we neglect the one thing we can always control, which is our own character. So the exercise is a constant sorting, a mental filter for every situation. Before you invest emotional energy, you ask, is this within my control? Your effort on a project is within your control. The final grade, the client's reaction, the market's response, those are not. Your preparation for a difficult conversation is within your control. The other person's mood, their reply, that's not. Your commitment to showing up for your morning run is within your control. The rain that starts 5 minutes in is not. Think of it like sailing. You can control how you set your sails. You can study the charts, tie your knots well. You cannot control the wind or the current. A foolish sailor exhausts himself cursing the calm or fighting the tide. A disciplined one focuses solely on mastering his craft, responding skillfully to whatever conditions arrive. His energy isn't dissipated, it's concentrated. Effective. Here's a practical application. You receive harsh criticism. Your immediate, undisciplined reaction might be to defend, to explain, to feel wounded. The dichotomy of control asks you to pause, sort it. The words that were spoken, the other person's opinion, these are external. They are not up to you. What is up to you? Your judgment of the criticism. Is there a useful truth in it you can extract? Your response. Will you react with anger or with calm consideration? Your decision to improve or to let it go. By shifting your focus entirely to your own sphere, you transform a demotivating attack into a moment of self-command. The sting loses its power, so here's a reflective prompt. Take a moment, list 3 things that are bothering you right now, just 3, write them down mentally. Now for each one, draw that line, categorize it. Is this thing within my control or outside of it? If it's outside, your task is not to fix it. Your task is to consciously release the mental weight you've attached to it. To accept it as part of the weather of your life. If it's within your control, even partially, then your path is clear. That's where you direct your action. That's where your discipline finds its purpose. This sorting isn't a one-time act. It's the daily sharpening of your focus, turning a scattered mind into a precise tool. Marcus Aurelius never intended his meditations to be read by anyone else. He was writing to train his own thinking. Those pages were a private check-in. A space to face his own mistakes, to strengthen his core beliefs, and to reset his focus. That's the fifth practice, the daily review. It's not a log of what happened. It's a record of who you were, a method for looking honestly at yourself and making a deliberate change. Seneca did this as well. In his letters, he talked about examining each day before bed. He said we should ask what vice we overcame that day, what temptation we stood against, and how we improved. He thought this was how the spirit got stronger. By looking clearly at its own advances and its own setbacks, the strength of this habit comes from its form and its truthfulness. It takes a hazy sense of failing and makes it into clear, useful information. When our drive weakens, we often just criticize ourselves in broad strokes. I didn't get anything done. I have no self-control. That kind of thinking drains you and doesn't help. A Stoic review cuts through that fog. It asks direct questions that show both where you stood firm and where you specifically slipped. This isn't about feeling bad. It's about seeing clearly. You can't fix a path you can't even see. So how do you actually do it? A basic set of 3 questions can be very powerful. First, what went right today? Where did my resolve hold? Maybe you began that hard project even though you wanted to avoid it. Maybe you stopped yourself from sending a harsh email. Recognize that win. It makes the right action more likely to happen again. Second, and this needs a soft honesty, where did I go against my own code? Where did ease win out over my better judgment? Did you waste an hour on your phone that was meant for real work? Did you complain about a problem instead of trying to solve it? Identify the slip without making a story out of it. Just state it as something that occurred. Third, and this is the key, what will I change tomorrow? This is the adjustment. If your attention wandered in the afternoon, your plan could be to take a short walk instead of checking notifications. If you were short with someone, your plan might be to pause for a moment before answering any questions when you get home. The plan is small, tangible, and something you can actually do. This evening routine does something deep. It puts a period at the end of the day. It stops mistakes from turning into a belief that you always fail. It turns them into single events with a specific fix, and it ends your day with a deliberate act of self-direction. You aren't just falling asleep with the day's noise in your head. You are sorting it. You are telling yourself, I direct my own actions, and tomorrow I can direct them better. So here's something to consider. Tonight before bed, take just 5 minutes. Use a notebook or even a note on your phone. Ask yourself those 3 things. What did I do well? Where did I miss my own mark? What one tiny, concrete step will I take tomorrow? Don't write a long passage, write a few lines. The point isn't to write beautifully, it's to see clearly. This 5-minute review is the central habit that secures all the others. It makes your ordinary day into a training for a resilient mind. There's this exercise called negative visualization. It's meant to create a kind of urgency. Not from fear, but from gratitude. The Stoics understood something. To really value what you have, you first have to be willing to imagine it gone. It's not a morbid thing. It's a technique, a way to shake off complacency, to see the ordinary as extraordinary just by remembering it won't last. Cicero wrote about this. He said the Stoics used it to rehearse losing what they cherished. The goal wasn't to live in sadness. It was to live without taking things for granted. By thinking about the temporary nature of people, possessions, our own abilities, it ignites something. A fuel for action. Why put off that conversation? Why waste this hour of health? Why neglect the work that matters? When you feel viscerally that these opportunities are fleeting, your motivation finds a deeper source. Seneca captured it. He wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality, but we also take for granted in imagination. We assume tomorrow's comfort, tomorrow's company." He advised setting aside days to be content with the scantiest fare, the roughest clothes, asking yourself, is this what I feared? His point was to touch the thought of having less, so that having what you do feels like abundance. It turns discipline from a chore into a privilege. It's not "I have to do this hard thing," it's "I get to do it while I still can," so in a daily routine. Take your morning coffee, that simple pleasure. Instead of drinking it on autopilot, you pause for 10 seconds, you close your eyes, you imagine the cup isn't there. The warmth, the aroma, that quiet moment is absent. Then you open your eyes and take the first sip. The experience is almost always richer. You've switched from consumption to appreciation. Apply it to a relationship. Before you interact with someone important, take a mental breath. Briefly picture your life without them, not to dwell on sorrow, but to clarify what they mean. That mental snapshot can dissolve petty irritations. It can turn a routine hello into a connection. It gives you the patience to listen or the courage to speak, because you see the interaction not as a given, but as a gift. It's a counter to procrastination. You're putting off writing a letter. You do a quick negative visualization. You imagine a world where you can no longer send it. The regret of the unsaid words becomes more painful than the effort of writing them. That imagined regret becomes the energy to pick up the pen. So here's a prompt. Choose one ordinary part of your day: the ability to walk, the sound of a loved one's voice, the use of your hands. For 1 minute, mentally place yourself in a reality where that one thing is gone. Don't linger, just touch it, then return to the present and observe the shift. Does that ordinary thing feel a little less ordinary? Does your next action feel more intentional? That shift is the engine of discipline, starting on a different fuel. The Stoics had this idea: you could act your way into right thinking. That's the 7th exercise. The Philosopher's Mask. It's a theatrical discipline. You don't wait to feel resilient before you act resiliently. You put on the mask of resilience. You perform it, and through the performance, the mask starts to become your face. This isn't about being fake. It's about using action as a tool, like a sculptor's tool for your own character. Virtue ethics is practical at its core. You become just by doing just acts. You become courageous by performing courageous deeds. You become disciplined by enacting the rituals of a disciplined person. Long before you feel like one, Seneca wrote about this in his letters. He advised choosing a role model, a sage whose qualities you admired. Choose a Cato, he said, or a Laelius, someone whose life commands respect. Then keep that person in your mind as your guardian and standard. In every situation, ask yourself, what would he do? How would he bear this difficulty? How would he manage this success? You're borrowing their character until you build your own. You put on their mask to rehearse your own ideal self. The action comes first, the feeling of authenticity follows. So what does this look like? In a moment of fading motivation, you face a tedious, necessary task. Your mind screams for distraction. This is when you consciously put on the mask. You ask, what would the most focused version of me do right now? You don't need to feel focused. You just need to enact the first step, the step a focused person would take. They would clear their desk, they would set a timer, they would begin with the simplest part. So you do that, you perform those actions. You are, for that moment, an actor, playing the part of someone who enjoys deep work. The miraculous thing is, the role often becomes real. The action generates its own momentum, and the feeling of focus begins to arrive, almost as a reward for the performance. Or take frustration. Someone interrupts you with a trivial request just as you're in a flow state. Your immediate, unmasked reaction is sharp irritation, but you pause. You put on the mask of the person who responds with calm grace. You take a breath, you soften your tone, you handle the request. You are acting as if you are unbothered, and in the act of responding that way, the storm of irritation inside you often just dissipates. You didn't suppress it, you redirected its energy into a chosen performance, and that performance, over time, rewires the default response. Here's a reflective prompt. Pick one virtue you feel is lacking in a specific area of your life. Maybe it's patience with your family in the evenings or consistency in your physical health. For the next hour, commit to wearing the philosopher's mask for that virtue alone. Act as if you are the most patient person you know. Listen fully without thinking of your reply. Speak slowly, smile, or act as if you are someone who deeply respects their body. Choose the healthier snack, take the stairs, stand up and stretch. Don't worry about feeling it. Just commit to the 1 hour performance. Observe what happens, not just in the world but inside you. Often, the mask reveals something. The person you're pretending to be was there all along, just waiting for the cue to step onto the stage. Memento Mori, remember you must die. It's a Stoic exercise. It sounds stark, but they didn't see it as morbid. They saw it as a clarity tool. When you hold the finiteness of your time in mind, it acts like a filter. It separates what's meaningful from what's just urgent or distracting. It changes discipline. It's not a grind anymore. It becomes a choice about how to spend your most precious resource, your attention, your energy, your life. The Romans kept this idea close. They weren't dwelling on an end. They were focusing on a middle, the life they were living right then. A skull on a desk wasn't despair. It was a paperweight for the soul, a reminder to not let the pages of your days blow away unused. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. In his private writings, he framed it not as a loss but as a natural return. You could leave life right now, he wrote. Let that determine what you do, what you say and think. He saw death as part of nature's order, no more strange than a ripe fruit falling. The fruit's purpose was to grow, to ripen, and then to make way for new growth. Contemplating this wasn't meant to frighten him into inaction. It was meant to free him from petty anxieties and propel him into action, to do the work of a human being fully while he could. So how do you use this as a practical exercise? It begins with a morning ritual. When you wake up, before you check your phone, before the day's noise begins, you take 1 quiet minute. You remind yourself, I will not live forever. This day is a finite gift. That single thought held lightly changes your decisions. That big project you've been avoiding. From the perspective of Memento Mori, not starting it is the true waste. The temporary discomfort of beginning is nothing compared to the permanent regret of never trying. That trivial argument you're rehearsing in your head. Seen through this lens, it shrinks. Is this how you want to spend your heartbeats? Or a mundane example, the choice between scrolling through social media for 30 minutes or reading a chapter of a book. The procrastination choice is easy, automatic, but with the Memento Mori filter applied, the calculation shifts. One option passes time. The other enriches it, which aligns with living a life you'd be proud to look back on. The awareness of an ending makes the middle matter more. This exercise doesn't demand grand things every day. It asks for intention. It asks you to align your smallest actions with your deepest values, because you are aware those actions are numbered. It turns discipline into a form of respect. Respect for the opportunity you've been given. So a reflective prompt. If you knew for certain that you had just 1 month to live, what single disciplined habit would you start today? Not a grand gesture, a daily practice. Would it be writing letters to those you love? Would it be taking a walk each morning to truly see the world? Would it be finally dedicating time to that creative project you've shelved? Identify that habit, then ask the harder question. What, besides the illusion of endless time, is stopping you from starting that habit now? The answer to that question is the obstacle, the one your discipline is meant to overcome. Between an event and your reaction, there's a space. This exercise is about widening it. The Stoics had a name for that practice. The Discipline of Assent. It means becoming the gatekeeper of your own mind. Not letting every passing thought, every initial feeling just barge in and take over. Your discipline lives in that pause, in the moment you choose not to automatically agree with your first impression. That's the core of Stoic psychology. Epictetus taught it with a specific word, phantasia, an impression, a mental image or a feeling that presents itself to you. He said these impressions aren't up to us. They just appear. A loud noise will startle you, a rude comment will sting. That's the phantasia. What happens next is everything. That's where your power is. Your assent, your agreement, or your disagreement with that impression. He wrote that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. The disturbance doesn't come from the event itself. It comes from your judgment that the event is bad or threatening or unfair, and that judgment is a choice. A choice you can learn to suspend. Think of your mind as a courtroom. An impression walks in. It's like a passionate, convincing lawyer making its case. I've been insulted. This task is impossible. I deserve to relax instead of work. The old, undisciplined habit is to slam the gavel immediately. Case closed. I agree, and you're swept into the reaction. The discipline of assent is you as the judge stopping the proceedings. You hold up a hand. You say, I hear your case. But I need evidence. I need to examine this before I rule. That pause is the foundation of all self-control. So in daily life, what does this look like? You're working and a powerful impulse flashes. Check your phone. The notification didn't even buzz. It's just a feeling of boredom, of seeking a tiny hit of novelty. That's the phantasia. The undisciplined mind assents instantly. It agrees, yes, I should check, and your hand moves almost on its own. The disciplined mind catches it. It sees the impression, it labels it. There's the impulse to seek distraction. It then pauses. It asks, does assenting to this serve my purpose right now? The answer is almost always no, and in that space you reclaim your choice. You can return to your work, not because the impulse vanished, but because you chose not to follow it. Or a more emotional example, you're in a hurry and someone cuts you off in traffic. The initial impression is a hot wave of anger. They are wrong. This is an injustice. My day is now ruined. That's the lawyer making its dramatic case. Without the discipline of assent, you become that anger. You honk, you glare, you let it simmer for miles. With a practice, you create the space. You feel the heat rise and you mentally step back. I see this impression of anger. I feel it in my body, but I do not yet assent to the judgment that this person has ruined my day. That is a story I am telling myself. I choose not to endorse that story. The event remains. A car changed lanes abruptly, but your internal world is no longer its hostage. You've kept your peace. This is how discipline is strengthened. Not by fighting feelings, but by questioning the automatic stories those feelings tell. It turns reactivity into responsibility. So here's a reflective prompt. Sometime today, when you feel a strong reactive emotion, frustration, anxiety, a craving, practice the phrase. Say it silently to yourself. I see this impression, but I do not yet assent to it. Create that one moment of space. In that space, you are no longer a passenger in your own mind. You take the wheel, and the direction you choose from there, that is the action of a disciplined life. The ultimate discipline of attitude is loving your fate. Amor Fati, that's the term. It comes from Nietzsche. The Stoics had the idea, but he gave it the name. It means to not just accept what happens, but to love it. To see every event, especially the hard ones, as the raw material for your own development. It's the difference between saying fine and saying good. This changes discipline. It's no longer a battle against circumstance. It becomes a partnership with reality itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote about it. In his private journal, he wrote a kind of prayer. Love only that which happens to you and is spun with the thread of your destiny. For what could suit you better than that? He wasn't talking about resignation. It was an active, creative engagement. Your fate is the thread you've been given. Your love for it is the skill with which you weave. The obstacle isn't a mistake. It's the texture that gives the tapestry its strength. Epictetus built his whole philosophy on this. He was born into hardship. He taught that wishing for things to be different is like a foot wishing to be clean. It's nonsensical. The foot's purpose is to tread the ground. Your purpose is to tread the path laid before you and to do it well. Amor Fati is the mental shift that makes that possible. It asks, what does this situation require of me? And then it meets that requirement not with resentment, but with a kind of grateful focus. So how do you practice this? When motivation is gone, take a practical example. You prepare for weeks for a presentation, a major opportunity. The morning of, you wake up with a fever. The event is cancelled. Your immediate reaction is frustration, a sense of wasted effort. Amor Fati intervenes. It asks you to love this twist of fate. Not the illness itself, but the new situation it creates. This cancelled plan is now an empty space. What can you weave into it? Maybe it's the deep rest your body needed. Maybe it's the chance to refine the presentation further, to make it undeniable for the rescheduled date. The discipline is in pivoting your energy, from mourning the lost opportunity to cultivating the new one. Or a smaller, daily irritation. You get unexpected, harsh criticism on a project you're proud of. The first impression is defensive anger. Amor Fati asks you to love even this. To see the criticism not as an attack but as a free audit, a blunt one. It highlights a blind spot. It offers you data you didn't have. By embracing it as necessary feedback, you disarm the critic's power to upset you. And you gain a tool for improvement. The obstacle becomes the training. The application is in the reframe. It's a conscious search for the hidden advantage, the redirected path, the lesson woven into the difficulty. This isn't naive optimism, it's strategic realism. It acknowledges the pain, the setback, but it refuses to see it as meaningless. It insists that everything that happens is fodder for the person you are becoming. So here's a reflective prompt. Bring to mind one recent annoyance, a flat tire, a missed connection, a plan that fell through. Now, instead of rehearsing why it was unfair, ask two questions. First, what did this event force me to do that I otherwise would not have done? Did it make you slow down? Did it introduce you to someone new? Did it reveal a flaw in a system? Second, how can this redirection serve a larger purpose I have? The flat tire created an hour of unexpected silence. Could that be a gift for reflection? The missed connection meant you took a later, less crowded train. Could that be a space for reading? The practice is to find or even invent the thread of benefit. When you can love the fate, the discipline to move forward within it comes not from willpower. It comes from a deep sense of alignment. You are no longer pushing the river. You are learning its currents and finding a way to swim with strength. This is the 11th exercise, the shortening of time. It's a way to put pressure on the present. To counter the thought that ruins discipline, the thought that you can do it later, that idea breaks down more commitment than failure ever does. Seneca understood this. In his essay on the shortness of life, he wasn't saying life is actually short. He said we make it short. We waste huge parts of it. We delay. We act like we have an endless number of tomorrows. And by assuming that, we lose today. His point was clear. It's not that we have little time, it's that we waste so much of it. Life is long enough, he wrote. If we use it well, the issue isn't the calendar, it's how we see it. This exercise is a corrective lens. You shorten your timeline on purpose, not to panic. But to focus, you take a goal that feels far off, floating in the future, and you bring its deadline much closer. In your mind, that shift changes how you decide. A task due in 6 months feels optional. That same task, if it needs a foundation by tomorrow, becomes immediate, necessary. You get the energy of urgency. But it's an urgency you control. You called it up to serve your discipline, not break it. In practice, take a writing project. You want to finish a draft in 3 months. That's a comfortable timeline, so comfortable you pick easier things instead. To use the exercise, you reframe it. You tell yourself the outline is due this week. The first chapter is due Monday. You didn't change the real deadline. You changed how close the next step feels. You made the present moment the critical path. Or fitness, a goal to get in shape by summer. That's months away. The daily workout is easy to skip, so you shorten the time. You decide the foundation for summer has to be built in the next 4 weeks. Every workout this week is part of that urgent foundation phase. The distant goal connects to today's choice. I'll do it later loses its power because later in this compressed timeline is already here. This exercise works with Memento Mori, but Memento Mori gives you the wide view. The shortening of time gives you the tactical lever. It applies that perspective to one objective. It asks, if my time were limited, how would I approach this one thing now? The answer is always to start sooner, to act with more concentration, to cut distractions not from austerity, but from seeing the hour you're in as precious. So here's a prompt. Pick one task you've been putting off, just one: starting a course, organizing a closet, making a difficult call. Commit to the mental shift. Treat it as if the first step has to happen in the next 60 minutes. Not tomorrow, not after your next break, in the next hour. Set a timer. This isn't about finishing. It's about weaponizing the present moment, proving to yourself that later is a story, and you can close that book anytime. The discipline is in choosing now. The Stoics understood discipline as something physical. It's not just in the mind. Your thoughts aren't separate. They're shaped by your posture, by your breath, by the tension you hold. To steady a wandering mind, you have to start with the body that carries it. That's the 12th exercise, the physical anchor, using deliberate physical actions to create a container for your focus. When motivation fades, the mind often follows it into distraction, into worry. The body, though, is always here in the present. You can use it as a lever to pull your attention back. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher, placed great importance on physical training. He didn't see it as vanity. He saw it as philosophy. He taught that just as we exercise the soul with reason, we must exercise the body to be a fit instrument for the soul. A weak, neglected body, he argued, becomes a source of complaint, a distraction, making it harder for the mind to do its work. His focus was on functional strength, on endurance. Cultivating a body that could serve a virtuous life without becoming a burden. The goal was integration, a steady mind in a resilient body, each supporting the other. The Stoics saw this connection in daily comportment. Epictetus spoke of carrying yourself in a way that shows self-respect. He advised a posture that wasn't slouched in neglect or rigid with arrogance but composed. Ready, he saw the outer bearing as an expression of the inner state and as a tool to influence it. You don't wait to feel confident to stand tall. You stand tall, and the feeling of confidence often follows. The physical act informs the mental reality, so in practice it begins with simple interventions. You're working and your focus scatters. Before you fight the thoughts, you adjust the body. You notice your posture. Are you slumped, shoulders curved inward? That physical form is almost an invitation to mental lethargy. So you anchor, you sit up straight. You plant your feet flat, you draw your shoulders back gently, opening your chest. You take one slow, deep breath. This isn't just ergonomics, it's a ritual. A physical declaration: I am here and I am ready to attend. The mind, tethered to this alert posture, often finds its way back. Another application is focused walking. When overwhelmed or stuck, instead of pacing anxiously, you turn it into an anchor. You walk with deliberate attention. You feel the heel strike the ground, the roll to the ball of the foot. You synchronize your breath with your steps. This isn't a stroll for thinking. It's a walking meditation. Its purpose is to drain the chaotic energy from your mind into the rhythm of your body. After 5 minutes of this, you return grounded. Your thoughts are often clearer. In a moment of rising stress, during a difficult conversation or before a task, the anchor is the breath. You don't try to stop the feeling. You place your awareness on the physical sensation of breathing. You count 4 slow breaths in and 6 even slower breaths out. This simple act activates your body's calming response. It creates a pocket of space between the stimulus and your reaction. It gives your discipline a foothold. So here's a reflective prompt. Right now, as you listen, notice your physical state. Are you lying down, slouching, without judgment? Just observe. Now, gently adjust. Sit or stand a little taller. Let your shoulders relax down and back. Take one full, deep breath and release it slowly. Hold this anchored posture for just 30 seconds. Feel the subtle shift in your awareness. This is the foundation. A disciplined mind begins with a body that is present, ready to serve it. When motivation fades, you try gratitude. Not guilt. That's the 13th exercise, the pause of gratitude. It's a deliberate interrupt, a switch you flip when you feel that resistance. Instead of pushing harder against the feeling of not wanting to, you step sideways. You shift your focus from the burden of the task to the privilege of having the capacity to do it at all. This isn't positive thinking, it's a realignment. A Stoic one, seeing duty not as a weight but as an expression of your own capability. The Stoics practiced forms of thanksgiving, not to a deity but to the nature of things. To their own place within it, it was an active recognition of what they had been given to work with. Marcus Aurelius began his days like this. In his meditations, he listed what he owed gratitude for. He wrote of his grandfather for teaching him good character, his father for his modesty, his mother for her piety, but he also listed more fundamental gifts. The health of his body for so many years, the fact that he had the leisure to study philosophy, that he had the mind to understand it. This daily ritual wasn't sentimental. It was strategic. It fortified his will by reminding him of his resources. It framed his immense responsibilities not as curses, but as opportunities. Opportunities made possible by his specific advantages. The modern application is immediate. You face a task you're avoiding. The energy is low. The mind seeks escape. This is the moment for the pause. You stop, you take one breath, and you ask, what about this situation can I be grateful for that actually enables me to do it? The gratitude has to be specific, tied to the action. Before a workout you dread, instead of thinking about the fatigue, you pause, you feel your legs, your lungs, your beating heart. You feel gratitude for a body that can move, for health that allows exertion. This reframe doesn't make the workout easy, it makes it meaningful. It transforms it from a chore into a celebration of function. Before a session of deep study or difficult problem solving, you pause. You feel gratitude for a mind that can focus, for the education that allows you to understand the material. For the quiet space to think. The task is the same, but your relationship to it has changed. You are no longer a reluctant laborer. You are a practitioner, using your gifts for their intended purpose. The resistance softens because you've connected the action to a deeper source of value. This practice is powerful for mundane duties, cleaning a space. You pause, you feel gratitude for having a home to care for having hands that can scrub and organize, paying bills. You pause, you feel gratitude for the income that provides, for the stability it represents. In each case, you are not denying the tedium. You are placing it inside a larger context, a context of provision and capability. The duty becomes a small act of stewardship over the gifts you've received. So here is a reflective prompt. Identify your most important task for today, the one that requires discipline. Now, before you begin, state 3 things you are grateful for that specifically enable you to do this task. Say them out loud or write them down. They can be as fundamental as your eyesight to read, your hands to type, the time in your schedule, the knowledge you've accumulated, or the peace in your environment. This 60-second pause does not add to your workload. It changes the weight of it. It reminds you that the ability to strive is itself a gift, and discipline then becomes the natural response. Of someone who knows the value of what they've been given, the discipline to begin. It's often about simplifying what beginning even means. An overwhelming goal paralyzes you. It's out there in the future, it's full of unknowns, full of potential for failure. The Stoic approach is a kind of surgical focus. You don't attack the whole mountain. You just place one stone. That's the exercise. Define the task, narrow the scope. It's the dichotomy of control, but brought down to this minute. You don't control the finished book, or the perfect body, or the successful business. You control the next sentence you write, the decision to put on your shoes, the first phone call you make. That's the only place your discipline has any real authority. The Stoics were masters of this. Marcus Aurelius, he constantly brought himself back to the duty of the hour. He wrote, "Do every act of your life as if it were your last." But the key is how he defined an act, not becoming emperor, but leaving behind self-conceit. Not winning a war, but overcoming a pain. He broke the grand role into the immediate thing, the manageable action. Another teacher might have said it like this: "Don't let the future disturb you. You'll meet it with the same weapons you use now, reason and action, and the weapon for the present is always a small thing. A clear thing, a doable thing. So take a goal, write a book. That's a year, hundreds of pages, a whole publishing maze. It's a recipe for procrastination. You define the task, you narrow the scope, you ask what's the smallest, most immediate, wholly controllable action. It's not write a chapter, that's still too big. It's not even write a page, it's write one sentence, open the document, place the cursor, write one true sentence about your topic. That's it, you've begun. The mountain is irrelevant now. You're a person placing one stone, and discipline is the willingness to place that stone, then the next one, or the goal is get fit. It's vague, intimidating, filled with images of exhaustion and sacrifice. Define the task, narrow the scope. The first action isn't do a 1-hour workout. It's not even do 10 push-ups. The first wholly controllable action is put on your workout clothes. That's the entire commitment. You don't have to exercise. You just have to get dressed for the possibility. 90% of the time, once the clothes are on, the next step happens almost automatically, stepping out the door. You've tricked your resistance by making the initial ask impossibly small. This works for emotional tasks too. The goal is repair a relationship. That's a minefield. Past hurts, uncertain outcomes, narrow the scope. The first action isn't have a deep, healing conversation. It's send a brief, kind text, just a simple thinking of you. Or it's recall one good memory of that person. You control the sending, the recalling. You don't control the reply or the result. You've done your duty for this present hour. The power here is psychological. A tiny action generates momentum. It creates evidence. It proves to yourself that you are a person who acts. It breaks the spell of inertia. Each small completion is a vote for your own agency. It builds the neural pathway of starting, which is the most important pathway of all. So the prompt. Bring to mind your most daunting goal, the one that feels heavy just to think about. Now define it down, ruthlessly. What's the single, physical, 5-minute action you can take right now or today? The one that represents the absolute first stone, not the foundation, just the first stone. It has to be so small that refusing to do it feels almost silly. That's your target. That's where your discipline lies, not in the grand plan, but in the microscopic, courageous act of beginning. Discipline is easier when you've already decided the battle the night before. This is the final exercise, the evening preparation. You're reverse engineering your day, using the clarity of tonight to outmaneuver the unmotivated self of tomorrow morning. It's a quiet act of strategic foresight, a practical form of self-governance. The Stoics would have recognized it as prudence, the wise management of your own life. Seneca touched on this. He wrote about preparing the mind to meet whatever comes with consistency. He advised not to let the mind be taken by surprise, but to command it to stand its ground. And he saw the evening as the time for that command, for reviewing what was done and ordering what is to come. This nightly ritual isn't about rigid control. It's about removing friction, designing an environment where the right action is the easiest action. You're not relying on willpower you might not have. You're building a runway for it to take off. So what does this look like? It's the physical and mental preparation that makes discipline almost automatic. Take morning exercise. You know you want to run, but when the alarm sounds, the warmth of the bed is a powerful negotiator. The evening preparation intervenes. Before you sleep, you lay out your running shoes, your socks, your clothes. You fill your water bottle and leave it by the door. You've removed every tiny decision and search. In the morning, the path of least resistance is no longer the snooze button. It's the prepared clothes waiting for you. The friction is gone. Apply it to deep work. You have a critical project to start tomorrow. Instead of facing a blank screen and a wandering mind, you prepare the night before. You write the single most important task at the top of a list. You open the necessary documents on your computer. You clear your desk of everything unrelated. You've defined the target and cleared the field. When you sit down, you're not starting from zero. You're resuming a mission you already set in motion. It works for nutrition. You commit to eating well, but at lunchtime, when you're hungry and busy, the easy option calls. So you prepare, you wash and chop vegetables, you portion out ingredients, you pack a lunch. The healthy choice is now the immediate choice sitting in your bag. You've outmaneuvered the tired, hungry version of yourself who would have chosen differently. This exercise is the ultimate act of self-compassion. It's you at your most clear-sighted, taking care of you at your most vulnerable. Building guardrails not as a restriction, but as a form of freedom. Freedom from the constant drain of micro-decisions. Freedom to act in alignment with your long-term goals without the daily internal debate. So here is the reflective prompt, and with it we close this toolkit. Identify one single point of friction in your morning, the one that most often derails your intention. Is it deciding what to wear? Is it figuring out breakfast? Is it the chaos of leaving the house? Tonight, commit to resolving just that one point. Lay out the clothes. Set the coffee maker, pack your bag. Do this one preparatory act as a gift to your future self. Observe tomorrow how that small investment of evening foresight changes the quality of your first disciplined action. This is how you build the engine, not in a single heroic effort, but in a series of quiet, strategic preparations. Stone by stone, you construct a life of unshakable action. That engine of discipline, it's something you have to build. There are 15 exercises forged from Stoic practice. Each one is a tool for a different part of the work. You have the Premeditation of Adversity, which disarms fear, and the evening preparation, which builds a runway for tomorrow. This is the toolkit. Its core themes are simple, but they change everything. You focus on what's within your control, your judgments, your efforts, your actions. You accept reality, not with resignation, but with a kind of creative engagement. Amor, Fati, loving your fate as the raw material for your own growth. And then you understand the power of consistent practice, not grand gestures, but the daily, quiet placement of one stone after another. That's how the muscle is built. Not when you feel like it, but especially when you don't. Epictetus knew more about hardship than most. He left a final truth. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Your will is your kingdom. Discipline is the practice of ruling it well. It's the ultimate freedom. The freedom to act according to your principles, no matter the weather of your feelings. So where do you begin? Don't try to lift all 15 tools at once. Choose 2 or 3, just 2 or 3 that resonate right now. Maybe start with evening preparation and the shortening of time. Or the Dichotomy of Control paired with the daily review. Commit to practicing them for 1 week. The aim is progress, not perfection. Each small act is a vote for the person you're becoming. As we close, reflect on this. Which single principle from this Stoic framework speaks to you most today? Is it the perspective of the view from above, or the deliberate performance of the philosopher's mask? Share your commitment in the comments. Let's build a community of practice, supporting each other in living with intention and resilient will. If you found this guidance practical, consider subscribing. Together, we can keep exploring how ancient wisdom provides tools for modern life. Your journey of unshakable action starts with the very next choice you make.